Hello and welcome to TrackVia's webinar, Citizen Spotlight, Jim Huff with J2 Link. Our host today is going to be Taylor, our Director of Customer Success, but we're going to start off with a few housekeeping things just to get us started. You are in listen-only mode. Please stay in that so everyone can hear the presentation. If you do have questions, we'll try to get to them. You can submit them through the chat window, and if we don't get to those live, we'll try to follow up with them in an email. This webinar will be recorded and we will send you that recording within 48 hours. That's pretty much it for me. So I will turn it over to Taylor and we'll get started.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michelle. And welcome, Jim. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and looking forward to this webinar for a little bit of time.
Well, thank you, Taylor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, all right, Jim. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Can you please give us a little bit of background about who you are and a little bit about your company as well?
All right. I've spent most of my adult career in the telephone business for a national telephone company in Canada. And once I left there back in 2007, I guess, we started a consulting company to work back as a contractor for the telephone company, doing above ground and below ground construction of all telecommunications facilities in that region. So it was just sort of a natural progression from my career in the phone company to now setting up a company to work back with them and do the things that I was trained to do over the years. And
okay. So what type of work, if we're helping the audience out here, like could you give us an example of what your company contracts usually?
Okay, so essentially all telecommunications facilities that the company uses, and it's underground, buried, undergrounds in a manhole conduit structure, buried cables, telephone stuff on telephone and power poles, and it's throughout the whole province. So it's actually literally thousands of miles of communications facilities above and below ground that we would install and manage for a while. So we ended up having all our work done, on this. They would send us a plan. It would tell us to go to this location and put in 1,000 meters of cable underground, or put this cable on the telephone poles and to splice it up, turn it on and make it work. And then they would give us the next job, or we'd bid on the next job, essentially.
Okay.
But the parts of the telephone company really come down to little piece parts to manholes, the size of the manholes, telephone poles. So all the parts that are associated with it were things that we needed to be aware of and price, and that's how we sort of bid our jobs with that.
Okay. So is that like telephone, internet, and anything else?
Yeah. So right now the telephone company is mostly all providing telephone, internet, and TV. And so initially TV was sort of a newer entity, but it was copper cables that we're placing in the ground. And then now it's mostly fiber, and most of the current projects are going into a community and putting fiber to every home in the community that wants it, so that they can provide all those services on that fiber cable.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That's helpful. Thank you. So you had a lot of experience in the telecom industry in Canada. You took all that experience and you wanted to start your own company. Is that sort of how that happened?
Yes. So we started in sort of one town, and then as we grew, and I was sort of bidding the jobs and tracking it in spreadsheets and doing it the way we had done it in the phone company for that matter. And then as we expanded our territory and region, we were 8 to 12 hours apart from one town to the next. And so now we're sharing a spreadsheet so we can bring our views together, and it was becoming more and more complex in the sense that we track all these parts and how many meters of this and how many of those and this and that. And so now you're tracking each of those elements that make up a network, and then the cost for each of those elements, and then the cost that we pay our subs for placing one, and then the cost that we bill the client for doing that. So it was becoming just a ball of spreadsheet that I couldn't handle anymore.
Yeah.
And then especially trying to do it on a server so everybody can log in and do their thing, and merging it was kind of impossible. So it kind of just pushed us in, I don't know, like a panic, not a panic, but a scenario. Well, how can we do this better? And then that's where I started Googling and came up with TrackVia.
Okay, so yeah, well, I think that's pretty common in the, in our customers, or, even our prospective customers, is we had a spreadsheet, it did its job for so long, it was helpful, it's, cheap, if not free to get started, but eventually you're kind of, which spreadsheet's up to date? How do we know who's updated this and who hasn't, who's overriding each other? Okay, and is that basically the pain story?
Yeah, and so part of my future past in the phone company was I was in the mapping side of the company, and so we had a database, and we all had our own maps, pictures of jobs, and then we built a centralized database with all the land parcels in the province in that database. So there was sort of a correlation between what TrackVia does and what the relational database. We had a spatial database to manage all of the land, and the land changes just like everything else, and people change it from all sorts. Every town, municipality changes the land. So I think that was kind of made me think there should be something that would be better than the spreadsheets, because they were not really that effective. Okay. So Googled, and I found TrackVia, I think on the second link I got to. So,
wow, all right.
It's a free ride.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, there's some place between how do we manage our business that's more complex than spreadsheets, but we don't have the, big development staff or endless resources to build and create our own database that needs a team to maintain. And kind of right there in the middle lives TrackVia, and it's a low code, and it's database, and you don't have to be a developer to put it together.
Correct. And so that for me, and I was definitely not a developer. I was a manager in that other group that I spoke about, the mapping. So I didn't have any skills whatsoever on low code, or I was struggling with Excel. But they had the good videos and the presentation, and then it's structured in a way that made sense. And because there's so many elements to one job, we have the people that did it, the people that designed it, the people that quality control it, and the people that invoice it. And so it was just becoming pretty hectic. So we didn't get it all right the first time, but you're building one element at a time. And so it became a very fun experience for me. Like I said earlier, it's kind of addicting. I like working in it still after all these years. So yeah, so that was at least 10 years ago, I think, when I found it. I was actually in this room when I found it. And you started looking at it, and and I did have some coaching and training from the TrackVia team, several in those early days. But now mostly I can struggle through my own, or not struggle through, but get through my own. But I have taken all the courses. So it isn't like I'm a whiz on anything here. Yeah,
you're a TrackVia University pro. We see you all over the place with courses getting completed. That's great. Well, Jim, if I could take you back here, so 10 years, you're just getting started with TrackVia. You have these business problems. You're trying to run a business at the same time. If you knew one thing that you know today, what would you wish to have in your hands, or in your brain 10 years ago when you first got started with TrackVia?
I would like a future picture of what it should look like. To say, because you're building it one piece at a time, and you might have a vision to, what you want to do, because it's going to resolve the problem of Excel. But to see a picture of our system now, if I had seen something even halfway there back then, that gives you a different perspective, and you can realize and visualize the power of a relational database, and how you can look at it from every angle, and you can choose to make that a permanent angle to look at your jobs and business. And I think so that would have been just And I think there are more and more of that's on your sites now. You got lots of good tutorials and videos about that. Back then, 10 years ago, there wasn't as many, and maybe I wasn't even looking in the right spot then. But I think that would be the thing that I would like the best, would have liked the best, and then an association with another business, even if it didn't have to be in the telecommunications, but in a business that has all these moving parts, that's building a process and forms and all the things that they do. Just sort of a high level overview of other businesses using it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, we have come a long way in those regards. And just a few points from our end, the TrackVia lens here. Yeah, number one, we've hired a really what used to be a consultant in-house on citizen development and business process management, and we use him to help consult with our customers. Number two, we are working on building a stronger community to share, what business problems did you have? Like, what are some common threads that are vertical agnostic that interacting on the TrackVia platform and then community can help solve? And in the last one, that's a little more gauged towards, I needed some help with inspiration and a vision of somewhere where I can go from spreadsheets to a finished product in TrackVia. We've launched a brand new trial experience, and it'll be announced more this month in the coming months. But for our new customers and really existing customers that are excited to get their hands on different use cases, our new trial experience has some pre-constructed sort of base level applications like inventory management and asset tracking and a few other examples that gives you something to start with. And it says, like, here's the tables, here's the attributes, here's how they're connected, and maybe a couple forms. And it's built exactly for that. Like, every TrackVia customer is a snowflake, but where can I get started and get help with maybe a best practice and how it looks before I go in and change it all myself?
That's great.
That's perfect. We appreciate the insight there. Yeah.
So I would say the stuff that I'm seeing right now, and I was looking at a tutorial today, was really just kind of that. It's what they're using for a dashboard. And so, I got 15 dashboards, I think, for our team, or maybe 25. And so, I think there's just little things like that will just make it click, and you can get it more succinct and pleasing, like a palette of what you want to see in one glance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an aspect that's like, how do I build a dashboard that gets me the information, and then how do I advance, mature those dashboards into it's aesthetically pleasing, it's beautiful, and the data's there, and it's organized. Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of times that's not what your goal is initially, but it's important to go back and wow, that's what their dashboards look like. I'm gonna try that out.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jim, sort of back to your perspective on when you first started using TrackVia and you're implementing it in your business. Sounds like problem number one was we need a centralized place to store our job data, have it be online at all times, and allow different people to interact with the same data and really centralize it and give visibility into other jobs, especially as this is your business and that information pertains to you daily, if not weekly. So once you solved that problem, you got all your spreadsheets consolidated into TrackVia, you have some business processes. How did you then take, this platform, how did you roll it out to other departments? I know you sort of said that you went, piece by piece, but can you tell us a little bit about how you did that?
Yeah, so first it was just me, the bidder, and then the other guys that are bidding and ladies that are bidding the jobs, and then the people in the field that needed to know what we're having our crews do, and they could see what it was they're doing, and tracking all the dates. And there's literally hundreds of data elements for each job. So, and some people only want to see this set, some people want to see this set. So at first we just started moving it from sort of the bidding side of the house, then to the delivery side of the house. And then we moved it out to the finance side is now looking at it, because the other old ways we were just sending an invoice and getting an invoice to pay from a sub. Now we're tracking it all back to that same network number. So first went to the delivery side from the sort of the planning side, and then finance. And then we got it to the point where clients had all the data and they wanted to have a system to manage what they were giving us to do. So they came to us and said, okay, we would like an application, TrackVia in this case, they actually had it in their bid, to actually be on their desk. They would put the data into the thing. It shows up on our delivery side. Crews have the application on their desk. So these are not employees, these are vendors, subs that contractors that we use. So they would go into the system and say, this pole has this, and this, and we did that. It took 6 hours. And then they would come there and the cost would accumulate inside the system and say, okay, well, I'm going to pay that sub $1,000. I'm going to bill the client $1,200. And so we actually had sort of a life cycle from the start, from the client said, we have to do this. And then the sub does it, and then we do the billing. So it does take the job to closure. And then we started adding the photos. When that came around, we started before and after. So our clients now check, they don't even go out and field check anymore. They look at the photo and zoom in on a pole, and it shows exactly the apparatus that's on there. And this is what before, this is after, and they say, yeah, you did all those things, and they pay us. So then it got, so that's sort of taking it end to end. And then we started purchasing all the material for this particular client. So in 18 months, we bought $12 million worth of material, 6,000 invoices. I'm getting invoiced every day, so we're tracking all those costs. We say the invoice should cost this, the invoice that we got from the supplier is that. So we now have a mechanism to do the puts and takes on just the data portion. And then we take that cable and apparatus that we bought, put it into the job and make sure it matches the build, the design of the job itself. So then the next part that sort of rolled into is we designing jobs. Our contract has now gone to a full E2E. So from one end to the other, we get the work from a client, a telephone, a business that needs a phone service, fiber cable. We get that, we go design it. We go through all of the process with communities and the legal authorities, road authorities, whatever we need to get permission to put the cable in the ground or above the ground. Then we put it into the building. So we design it, buy the material, do the construction, and then do all the building. So it really is the full circle now. There's not much else we can do in the business of providing telecommunications facilities to our client.
Wow, that is a complete picture. Thanks for walking us through that, Jim. A question there. So do you feel like, so now that you're putting all the jobs in TrackVia and you've got your bids and your raw materials and the costs that you're invoicing your customers, has having this in one central place, has this changed like anything with your bidding process or like your accuracies that have allowed you to win more jobs?
Well, we kind of get, we bid on a contract and we get it first, but having the ability to do and manage all these aspects and take a look, you can see it at this point or this point, that is talked about often in our clients. So we meet them every month on a high level, how we're doing to do this. And so we're talking $35 million worth of construction work in a year. So they want to have a chat with you every month and just make sure all the things are going in the plan that they have. And so we know that we're one of 3 or 4 big vendors that supply to these companies, and they know that our data, and they talk about it all the time, how we can see and show them stuff that the others can't, that aren't on a system like this. So that is pretty crucial, because we talk about errors per 1,000, and when we go out and splice a fiber optics box, it's a very complex, all these fiber optics threads that match together, and you got to know the names of them all. And so that information is all captured in the system. So when we do the QA on that, TELUS sends out a QA person, they look at it, they take pictures, we got pictures, so we can do the compare. And so it really has become one of the sort of pillars, which you call, of our company doing a good product for this client. And so we're probably the largest now in the sector for them. And I think it's because we have the tools that let us know to let them know. And sometimes they can even see, depending on which group we're in, they can see it themselves.
Okay, so you've constructed, such a well thought out, application from end to end that it sounds like it's sort of made you a preferred partner, a preferred vendor with your customers. Okay, yeah, that's excellent.
They don't pay us any more money for that, but they give us more work. So
yeah, that's a different battle.
When we did our next national bid, we use this as part of our bid package. So we say, okay, well, we have this system that allows us to do all this online, one database. You put in the data once, everybody gets to see it, so it removes any of the opportunity of error. Not that we can't make an error putting it in, but if you're all putting in something, the same job, and it's kind of the same data, that's a little more difficult. So we present that we have this system in every national bid or big bid we do, that we say we have a management system that allows us to really accurately show where we're at with each of these projects.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a fun story to talk about it, and we appreciate you sharing that. So you have it end to end. You're using this across all your departments. Your customers have a portal. You're doing designs in TrackVia now as well. I understand that you're extremely well saturated in terms of putting your business inside of TrackVia. I understand that you recently are engaging to build some integrations using our Workato, our integrations platform. Can you tell us sort of about what's on your immediate radar and maybe closely following that you plan to do with integrations that's taking your app a step further here?
Okay, yeah, so Workato came up, I think, in one of the training sessions, university courses I was on. And so we started thinking about where we get our data from the client, and it's a system. We actually have access manually to go into the system, find the data, put it in our system. And then when we work through the project for a while, we'll have to take the data out, put it back in their system and show, because the life cycle of a job, and some of them take 6 months, some of them take, a month or 2 weeks, probably a quick one. So there's always things that are changing and dates changing and customer requirements adjust all the time. So we have to put it in their system, or they will have to put it in our system. So Workato kind of popped up there and said, well, wow, if we could put it in here and it would go in there, if they would put it in there, it would come in here, then all of this data entry that we're doing, and there's literally at least 15, I think in my business case, 15, 18 clerical people doing data entry into that system, from our system, or from that system into our system. And so it's just, it has to be integrated, but in a real time would make all the difference in the world. So we figured that 2 hours a day per staff, 5 days a week, 43 weeks, 50 weeks a year, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just in that input time. So we've got now to the point where we've got the tables in TrackVia, the tables in Jira, which is the customer system that we're integrating first. And we put Workato in the middle, and we build the little recipes that takes a data element out of TrackVia and puts it into the right table in the Jira system. And then it does that real time or schedule time. And then we're going to go back and forth, because so we're just laying that out now. So we've had 2 or 3 meetings with Max from your shop there, and we're getting that process now with the client and our own people knowing which data we want to shift. And then we're going to move to the next application that we use in our system, where we track time to those jobs. So now it'll automatically put their time into the network title or program.
Okay, So Workato in this case, to maybe simplify that a little bit, Workato is just keeping your multiple systems in sync, so you don't have to worry about human error or additional time to swivel chair and enter it in TrackVia, enter it in Jira. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really swivel chair is good because we were going in their system, putting it in ours, and that's 2 hours a day for 15 or 18 people when it can be automated. And so we're pretty excited about that.
Okay, excellent. That is a fantastic use case for that, and obviously you've thought through the dollars impact as well. We're excited to hear about what comes out of that, and also what comes next in that natural evolution. It seems like you're using every tool and feature and partnership that we throw out, and you absorb it right away.
The next one could be the forms you said, not the forms, but the invoicing or the documents that we can create. So we did that before, so I'm excited to look at that again.
Okay. Yeah, and for for everyone watching, and a lot of ideas of what happens with field services here to again save some time for letting your vendors know that a job is completed and having the images. Some of our other customers, they'll input data from the field, and rather than having to wait to come back to a computer and enter it, or uploading images, they are taking their timesheets, the work orders, their materials, all for a job, saying I've completed it, and then through Workato that fires off a recipe or an integration to create an invoice on a PDF document that sends to the customer for payment. And Jim and I were kind of doing a debrief on that to say that's a great next step, and potentially time saver there as well, just to have that hard document with everything summarized in one place. But, okay. Yeah, so Workato, kind of endless possibilities there. There's so much going on. I'm really excited that you're getting your hands on that, and kind of can see what it can do for you. We have about 3 minutes left here, so maybe just time for one last question, and we'll go completely off topic here. I see that acoustic guitar behind you, Jim. Are you in a band? Do you play for fun? Tell us about that.
I'm in a couple bands.
All right.
Only in Arizona.
Okay.
Because when you play in Arizona, you get to go to bed at 9. These are all snowbirds, and so they everywhere we play, it's kind of that's it is. If you play at home, back at home in Canada, you start at 9 and play to midnight. So this is more my style, and yeah, so it's something that I played my guitar for years and years, but never played in a band till I got here. And now there's a bunch of us in the community that play, and we're just here for the winter and play together for that time. And it's a lot of fun for having never just started doing this. This is probably my second year, third year. So.
Okay. Do you just play guitar in your band, or any other instruments that you play?
No, I just play guitar. I'm the singer and guitar, and then we have the guys and drums, and the guys that have more talent. Guitar is fairly easy from my perspective, but the talent guys, the pickers and the drummers and the keyboards makes it all fit pretty nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe that's future webinars. We'll let your band go viral here. TrackVia. Okay. Let me just check to see if there's any light questions in our chat link here, but with time ticking, yeah, you know what? I think we'll call it. I don't want to have you run over here, Jim. We certainly appreciate your time. We appreciate your business, you being a customer and sharing your story with us. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much.
All right, Taylor. Thank you. Thank you. Talk soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.